G'day, it's Trooper Cody and Steve again, and we're back at you with part 2 on swords. So if you've seen part 1, this is going to make sense to you. Watch part 1 before you watch part 2, because what you're going to see here is not a light horse sword. What you're looking at here is a pattern 1899 British cavalry sword. And the thing about this sword is it's described in historic texts as the best sword the British cavalry ever had. I'm kidding. That text, that history, says this is the worst sword, the worst one, mate, that the British cavalry ever had. The reason is the Crimean War. You've heard of Florence Nightingale. The British were fighting the Russians. We've got the charge of the Light Brigade into the Valley of Death, rode the 500. In the Crimean War, the sword that the British cavalry was using was described as a shocker, and there are many, many accounts of in action, the sword snapped when the men needed it most. In response to that, the British brought out, this is a Wilkinson sword. It is made in 1902, so it's nearly 102 years old. And that's what the British brought out for the cavalry. They brought out the 1899 pattern. It was described as the worst sword ever because in an effort to stop it snapping, it was made quite thick and heavy. And so contemporary generals, the people that knew, said that it was unwieldy and poorly balanced, and in conflict risked breaking the men's wrists or arms. What you got to remember about 1899 though is that by then we had the cartridge, we had bullets, we were no longer riding on horses with sabres into poor soldiers that got one shot off before you were into them. You never guess I'm left-handed. Before you were into them with your sword. By 1899, that's all changed. We have got repeating rifles, fast shooting cartridges, pretty much made the sword redundant anyway. So there we go. That's where we're up to at the moment in part 2. The 1899 pattern sword was replaced by the 1902 pattern, and that is the sword that the Australian light horse used in practice and training at the start of the war, and then in part of their kit after the 31st of October 1917. Hope that's been interesting, hope it's made sense. You subscribe, make sure you watch part 1, there's going to be a part 3. Cheers, make sure you subscribe. Thank you very much.